Okay, guys, we got a very special guest here with us today. We have the director of content at BetSpurt, the Minnesota half of the Deep Dive podcast, and the co-host of Brown Bag Bets. We have Andy Molitor with us. How we doing, man? Good to see you.
Pretty good, pretty good. It's a weird. We're recording this on a Thursday. It feels weird not having games anymore on Thursdays. We just have to settle for basketball and hockey on nights like these. And I guess
Yeah,
we get super wild card weekend though. So three days of football. I guess I can settle for that. That's fine.
that should be fun with college basketball mixed in.
Yeah.
Should be a fun weekend. Um, Let me bring this up real quick, Andy. You on your Twitter profile, you have lover of brown liquor and banana bread, right? Which I agree with both, 100%.
Yeah.
Now, I have a question about the banana bread, though. Like, is that a grandma's recipe, or do you just like any banana bread?
So a lot of the recipes, people, you have the button, you jump right to recipe. You do it on your phone now, but my
Yeah.
wife still has some recipe cards from like her mom.
Mm-hmm.
And there's this banana bread recipe, and nothing is spelled right on this card. They didn't even spell bread or banana right on this recipe, but it says
Yeah.
Patty's banana bread, and nobody for the life of them can figure out who Patty is. Like, we've asked people, like, I don't know, like somebody just got that from somebody, and it's like everybody has that recipe. So I had made some and took some pictures. I think some guys in the NBA chat had wanted the recipe. So like I think if you Googled like or went through back and searched my Twitter, you'd find that recipe posted somewhere.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, it's just turned into an inside joke there. And I do love banana bread,
Yeah.
and it's awful cold up here right now. So I do love the brown liquor. It's the only thing keeping us warm up here over the
Yep.
winter.
Yeah, I'm with you. What is it now? 0 up there?
It's been a little better the last couple of days, but there's been a couple of days where it's been cold and the wind kicked in, and
Yeah.
you look on the phone and it's like feels like negative 27. Like, that's
Right.
not fit for
Not what you
man
want to
nor
see.
beast at all. Nobody needs that.
Yeah. Well, I'm in Pennsylvania. It's actually warm today. The snow's starting to melt a little bit, but we're supposed to get 6 to 10 inches on Sunday night. So it'll melt for more to come. That's what happens.
Yeah.
But, well, let's get into these NFL playoff games, man. Um, some stats I have here. The home favorites since 2015 are 10-10 straight up, 6-13-1 ATS, 7-13 to the over/under. The away favorites since 2015, 6-0 straight up, 3-3 ATS, and 1-5 to the over/under.
And I wonder if some of that too is so just some disrespect for those away favorites. Those away favorites are usually a situation where you have two really good teams in the same division. One of them doesn't win that division. One of them might have more wins than the division champion they're facing as a wild card. You end up with a team that's likely better. And sometimes I think you can end up with a little disrespect because it turns into one of those things that once the whole world knows about it, the edge it's built into the number. Like, everybody knows Andy Reid off a bye, and everybody knows like when a team's rested, and some of the stuff does start to get built into the market. And I think a big one you hear around this time of year is home field advantage is bigger in the playoffs. Like, they may run enough numbers to know like home field advantage matters more in the playoffs, and I think you're paying extra like that. It's just built into the number at this point. Where if you're betting on a home team, I think you're betting a little bit of a premium at this point. And even if they're a home dog, I think maybe sometimes those or those road favorites, like you're saying, those numbers are a little bit short just because a little bit built into the market as far as that home favorite being that little extra juice for the playoffs. And I mean, it is something to take into account and know that, and this is something Drew and I talked about a bunch yesterday. It's like, man, this is 18, 19 weeks now, and the market knows damn sure well what these teams are. They understand what the market is for each team. These numbers are fairly good. It's tough to play into a lot of these. I think a lot of times you're not looking for like what the market missed. You're looking for what the market is building in like that, because it knows like everybody's looking for this and we're going to take money on this angle. So sometimes I think you are just, and this happens during the season too. You're looking for things that the market is overvaluing, and I think home field advantage is starting to be one of those in the playoffs. So I'm looking at a few road teams already. It's kind of the MO this time of year for me.
Yeah. Well, we'll kick it off here with the first game on Saturday. Las Vegas and Cincinnati. So Las Vegas this season against playoff teams is 3-3 straight up, 3-3 ATS, and they have a negative 59 yard per game margin. Cincinnati against playoff teams 4-2 straight up, 5-1 ATS, and a +9 yard per game average. So if you just factor that in, I mean, you can't just factor that in, but if you look at that, there's not much you can take from that.
No, and I think it's funny too. I got to thinking when you said Las Vegas 3-3 versus playoff teams. Two of those games were obviously Chiefs games where they got their doors just blown off. Like
Right.
It's just a really, really bad matchup. And I hate being the guy that says throw something out because then you're just end pointing. It's like, oh, if you didn't have that 80-yard run, a guy who runs for 120 yards, if he didn't have that 80-yard run, he'd only had 40. Well, yeah, but he did because he's good,
Right.
or it was good scheme. And so you do have to keep those games in. But aside from the Kansas City games, decent record, and yeah, it's just such a piss poor matchup for them against Kansas City. Like that was never going to go good. Drew and I both bet against the Raiders both times. They said make the number as big as you want the second time. We'll still probably hit it, and it's been a team that surprised me. I actually bet against this team preseason, regular season win total under 7, which again, this team won 4 overtime games. That's kind of what flipped it. If it would have been variance the other way, they would have stayed under their win total. They wouldn't have made the playoffs. They wouldn't be in this position. But it's been a team that had a lot of trouble on the defense through the last couple of years. They drafted, and it just hasn't worked out. Like Clelin Ferrell didn't hit right away. Some of the other picks, I mean, some of their high picks just didn't work out. Obviously, you have the Ruggs thing that happened midseason, all the distractions.
Or they're in jail. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He's not playing anymore. And then the coaching thing, but something I've kind of hammered on the last half of the season too is maybe the decision not to promote a coordinator, to let those 2 coordinators just take care of what they've been taking care of, stay on their responsibilities, manage their jobs, and put somebody else in head coaching, kind of a GM position, just take care of all the other business. Maybe that benefited them because the defense is playing up, the pass rush has been great. And yeah, that was a big thing that I've looked at all week is like that they don't need to blitz to get a pass rush. If you don't need to blitz, you're not leaving guys in single coverage like Higgins and Chase and stuff. And yeah, and this has been bet down for a reason. People with some influence have seemed to like the Raiders. I tend to agree, and I probably will have some 5.5 in my pocket come this weekend.
Well, it's a good story, right? I mean, everything that happened to the Raiders throughout the whole season, it's a decent story that people are probably rooting for them too. So a couple of trends for this game.
I still kind of hope they lose. Like I hope they cover and lose. I'd like to see more Burrow and fun offense, but I definitely think this game should be lined a little closer, and I'll probably be betting on the Raiders this weekend.
Okay. A couple of trends I have here for this game. The Raiders are 4-1 ATS in their last 5 as a dog. 0-5 ATS in the last 5 meetings between these teams. So the Raiders are 0-5 ATS between the last 5 between the Bengals and Raiders, which I don't know how far that goes back. It must go back pretty far.
Depending on their finishing position in the divisions, and they might play each other if they finish the same. Otherwise, it's a rotational thing where that's probably over like 6 to 7 years, I would think, if not more. Okay. So maybe one to toss out, but the one you brought up, their ATS record the last few games as a dog, it's been, they were undervalued at the end of the season. They were playing better than people thought they would, and I think I keep going back to those Chiefs games, but they had decent games, or they'd have decent overtime luck at least, keeping games close, putting themselves in a chance to win, and then you'd throw in one of those Chiefs game and they'd lose 40-14. And then people would be, oh, yeah, all right, this team was a fraud. We're going to bet against them again. And then they'd play well against teams that weren't the Chiefs. And at the same time, it was fun because the Chiefs would be overvalued after that game. Be like, oh, the Chiefs are back. They fixed it. Like, nah, they just got to play the Raiders.
Yeah, you can't go by one game. That's for sure.
Oh, for sure.
Bengals are 4-0 ATS in the last 4 overall, and the under is 4-0 in the last 4 playoff games for the Bengals.
Yeah, I do see that. I suppose just hot, kind of the same story. They're hot to end season. And I think everybody's going to be heavily anchored to that Kansas City game, which you can't blame a team if the refs give you a bunch of yards. And sometimes those high leverage penalty calls are the right calls. But like there's charts out there saying that was the single biggest swing in a game as far as how much win probability referee calls changed for one team out of all the games in the season this year was that Bengals Chiefs game. And it's not like those calls were all wrong. It just the refs really played a big part in that win. I don't know if they're as good as advertised. So I'm probably thinking that off that Chiefs win and off, like you said, the late all the ATS wins they've had late in the season, they're probably a little overrated at this point. But again, I still like the team. I want to see them. I want to see them win a couple games. It'd be fun. Just not by too much this weekend.
Yeah. Do you take any stock in any of this, Andy? With both quarterbacks, it's being their first time in the playoffs, right?
Yeah.
Burrow's more of an indoor quarterback playing outdoors. Do you take any stock in any of that?
A little. It's nice when you can bet against these first-time quarterbacks. There's 5 in the playoffs. Only one's favored, but that's because he's playing another one.
Right.
And it's a weird toss-up. Like, I'm not sure quite what to make of that. You have a guy who has been in the league for 8 years, who's played a lot more in the NFL with a lot more experience in Carr. But then you've got a guy who played at a big program in big spots, had the best, I'll just say it. I'm not afraid to say that was the best season ever by a quarterback in college. I don't think that's controversial. Some people might disagree because the game has changed and there were some crazy running quarterbacks back in the mid 90s. But like that was an amazing season. He played in really high leverage spots in the playoff games, the SEC title game, just playing the Bama game in season. Like it's. You can't take that away from him. It's not the NFL playoffs, but he's played in some big spots. So it's tough. I think it just kind of balances out for me as far as that goes with those two playing head to head as first time playoff debutantes.
Right. Yeah. Well, we'll end with these two stats here for this game, Andy. Las Vegas is 31st in the league in penalties per game. So that's something to keep an eye on. They're also 29th in turnover margin in the road games this season. So just 2 stats to keep an eye on that could be critical in the playoffs. Next game here, Andy, New England and Buffalo. So New England is 2-3. These are against the playoff teams. We'll do them for each one against this year's playoff teams. 2-3 straight up, 3-2 ATS, and negative 406 yards per game as a differential. Buffalo is 2-4 straight up, 2-4 ATS, and plus 325 as a yard per game margin. Any thoughts there?
Yeah, New England's season has been odd to me. Like the defense has played well. The narrative is that Mac is good, and some of the advanced stats will show you that Mac is a very competent quarterback, especially compared to his other classmates in this, disappointing rookie class of crop of quarterbacks. We thought we'd get at least a couple that were decent, but the scheme, the way that the coaching staff has handled him has helped out quite a bit. So I'm still unsure of what to make of New England sometimes, but we've got a couple of these games this weekend already. This is the 3rd time they'll play, but at the same time, you've got one of those games where you almost have to toss it out. Like, what are you going to make of that wind game where they threw the ball 3 times? Like, how much context can you take from that?
Yes,
so it's tricky. It's tricky to take some of those, those records down the stretch, especially playing some of these other playoff teams. I think the main takeaway from those records that you just quoted was that, like the middle to the top of the AFC is pretty Like there's a lot of parity. There's not a huge gap. It's not like the one seed is so much better than all the other teams like we've seen in some seasons.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. There's more variance this year. The Patriots, so a couple trends here. Patriots 4-1 ATS in their last 5 playoff games. The under is 8-2 in the Patriots' last 10 games as a dog. The Bills are 3-0, 3-0-1 ATS in their last 4 games overall. Under is 4-1 in the Bills' last 5 games as a favorite. And the under is 3-6. And this is for the Bills for this season. They're 3-6 to the under, or I should say 6-3 to the under.
Sure.
The Pats are 5-3 to the under on the road. Bills are 6-3 at home to the under. So this would favor an underplay, but just based off of that stat.
Yeah, and two, like I said, throwing out maybe completely throwing out that win game. If you look at that second game that these two teams, I believe they played two games in 3 weeks, or I'm not sure, maybe there was a bye in there, but two out of 3 games they played, and there was 700 some yards combined in that second game in New England.
Yeah.
I think that game took a little bit of doing to get to the over. I actually tend to lean to the over in this one if the offenses perform like they did. And truthfully, Mac Jones had kind of a bad game, and they still ended up scoring some garbage points there towards the end. I think that was maybe Damian Harris had a few touchdowns. It was more of a running game for them, and they are a team who can take advantage of the ground game. I'm not sure what the game plan is. I think this is the one that scares me the most because, like we saw, I've joked about the 3-pass game. God knows what Belichick will do. He's not afraid. There was a game like this years ago against the Minnesota Vikings where the run defense was historically good. Like it was something that was brought up every week on SportsCenter, how good this run defense was, and Belichick just threw the ball like 60 times. Like they just didn't run. He'll do things like that. So I do kind of worry about this, but I lean towards this over as it's been bet down a little with the narratives around the cold weather and some of the anchoring based around that 14-10 game.
And you bring in the rookie quarterback too, right? Jones coming in. But this is the third time he's going to see this defense too. So you also have to factor that into it. I mean, they're 2 good defenses, but like I said, these teams have prepared for each other twice already. So, yeah, I mean, you might be on the right bet there with the over, but this stat came kind of shocking to me. They're first overall by far in this stat. In the last 3 games, the Buffalo defense, the opponents convert 9.68% on third down. Less than 10%. So I found that shocking.
And that was the last 3 games?
Last 3 games.
Sure. I'm trying to think if that was.
Yeah, I didn't look up who they played, but either way,
it would have been the Patriots game. I just pulled up the schedule because I was thinking, I'm like, I know the Jets game was in there, like the Jets. So you played the Jets, the Falcons, and the Patriots game where Mac was bad, and if this defense is going to step up against bad competition, I think that's probably what you'll see. But it'll be interesting to see what we get from Belichick for a game plan. It might be a lot of running. It might not. It might be kind of hairy getting there to the 44.
You gonna take any props in these?
I actually looked at Buffalo's team total over as well, but I haven't started too heavily on player props. I'm gonna start digging into those probably Friday afternoon as I get some time. Just finding some inflated numbers again on that too. It's gonna be a lot of unders, which is just no fun. I'm gonna bet those and forget I bet all about them. Just go check the accounts on Monday. I don't want to look at that. You don't want to be sweating. You bet an under every time you see the ball thrown. It's going to the receiver. You have the under on. Like, oh, that guy's got 9 targets.
Yeah, drop it.
Yeah.
Well, we'll move on here to the first game on Sunday, Philadelphia and Tampa Bay. Full disclosure, I placed a bet yesterday on the under. It was 48.5, and I believe it's down. Last I checked was 45.5.
Yeah.
And that's due to the weather. It's supposed to rain, supposed to be in excess of 20 miles an hour winds. So it could get ugly. All game, too, I believe. But Philly is 0-6 against playoff teams this season, straight up. 1-5 ATS, negative 431 yards per game margin. Tampa Bay is 4-1 straight up, 1-4 ATS against playoff teams, and plus 311 yards per game in a differential. So anything surprise you there? The 1-4 ATS against playoff teams, I didn't look that up either, but you would think they'd be maybe higher spreads.
Yeah, I think sometimes you pay a premium, and it's been an odd season if you have to think about that team as well. Like as far as when they had all their receivers healthy and when they don't, and even then they have decent
Right.
depth. And yeah, congrats on getting a good number. That's been bet down quite a bit based off just not only the weather but some of the defensive injuries looking like they're
Yeah.
trending properly. And if it does rain and Jalen Hurts if it's raining and windy and Jalen Hurts is ineffective, Tampa Bay has the defense to just grab their bootstraps, walk up to the line of scrimmage and stop that running game. And it might just be a ton of 3-and-outs. And then Tampa will just use their multitude of weapons to take care of business here. I don't rate the Eagles as having much of a chance of winning this outright. But again, you're paying a little bit more of a premium. There were some books that opened this as low as 7. I saw right off the bat.
Yeah.
Those numbers didn't last for more than a couple minutes. But yeah, I mean, I'm pretty much fine with these numbers where they're at now. I think the total's been beat down more than enough based on the weather. And yeah, I'm probably steering clear of this one outside of, again, I might look at some Jalen Hurts props if I think I want to go back and look at some college play as his as well. I'm just gonna see if I can find some bad weather games. Tom Brady, you can't like that. He's played hundreds of games. He's fine.
Yeah.
He's played in everything. Played in snow, rain, wind, whatever. I'm not too worried about him.
I'd say a good play for this game, too, if you missed the 7, which was early, you could do a teaser through the 7 and the 3, pair it with another game. That could be an option. But some of these props or some of these trends here for this game, this one was sort of surprising here. The Eagles, now this goes back a while, but the Eagles are 10-1 ATS in their last 11 playoff games as a dog. The under is 4-0 in the Eagles' last 4 wild card games. Buccaneers are 6-1 ATS in their last 7 games as a home favorite. The under is 5-1 in the Buccaneers' last 6 playoff games as a favorite, which you can't really take much stock in. But this season, Tampa Bay is 7-1 straight up and 6-2 ATS at home.
Yeah. And now they're getting the weather to help them out, take care of a young quarterback, a young first-time quarterback, first-time coach. It's awful tough. Like you mentioned the teaser, it just stinks there's not like a really great no-brainer leg to go with it. That's the only
Right.
thing that drives me nuts about this
That's
teaser.
the problem.
If you have the kind of book that lets you do an open teaser where you put this in and save the second leg for something next week or the week after, I think that's a beaut. I mean,
Yeah.
you kind of nailed it. Like this is a really sexy teaser leg if you want to do anything with this game, just based off where Tampa Bay is sitting and how this game probably scripts out and goes, especially with the weather turning this way. And yeah, I guess no surprise about the long-term history for the Eagles record in playoffs as a dog being good. I don't think they were favored once in their Super Bowl win like this. So
No,
that's
they
four
weren't.
wins right there, straight up. Against not only against the spread but just straight up wins as a dog there, so that kind of helps bolster the record when you have one nice run.
Definitely. And some stats here: the Eagles on defense, they allow a point for every 12.7 yards, which I didn't write that down. That was bottom third of the league. I believe it was maybe 29th or 30th in the league.
Yeah, you want to be closer to like 15.
Yeah. So that's not good against a good offense here in Tampa Bay. The Tampa Bay, their turnover margin is second in the league at plus 1.8. And Tampa Bay, so this is the narrative all week, right? Philly runs the ball well. Tampa Bay defends the run well. Well, in the past 3 games, the Tampa Bay defense is in the bottom third of the league, giving up 4.9 yards per rush. So that's just some stats to end us with that game there. Next one here, we got San Francisco and Dallas. A lot of people like San Francisco, and the public play is always going to be Dallas, right? So San Francisco against playoff teams, 4-4 straight up, 4-4 ATS, plus 150 yards per game. Dallas is 3-4 straight up, 4-3 ATS, plus 61 yards per game. I'll just get right into these trends here real quick. 49ers are 5-1 ATS in their last 6 games as an underdog. The under is 4-0 in the 49ers' last 4 playoff road games. Cowboys are 5-1 ATS in their last 6 games as a favorite. The over is 10-4 in the Cowboys' last 14 as a home favorite. The Dallas Cowboys are 8-1 ATS on the road, but only 6-4 at home ATS. And
yeah, I can see that. I think you pay a little premium for some of those Jerry World games, and people say that. Even Cowboys say that without him. Cowboys fans, you always hear that, like, we don't play well at home, and it's one of those things where people say stuff like that, but like there's actually empirical evidence behind there. And yeah, a lot of people bet into the Niners. That number got shaped pretty quickly down to 3. You might see it come back if a big flush of public money wants to bet America's team, on game day, which could happen. I mean, these are all standalone games. You got to treat these markets are different than, normal Sunday games because they're standalones. It's like a Monday Night Football every game, where public money can probably shape some of these numbers if it's big enough and it's all on the same damn side, which could happen. And yeah, a lot of people came in on the Niners. I had a point, and Drew kind of helped me shape it last night. He put a point on it that helped me, because I said I felt like, the case was to bet the 49ers just straight up. Because if the 49ers have a lead, they're able to run the ball. And Dallas, again, this defense has been talked a lot, but it's still like a good team with a good running game should be able to run the ball, keep a lead. But if Dallas gets a lead, I don't love the Niners in comeback mode against this team, despite what they did. So I'm not, I pay the 10 cents juice on getting the +3 if they're just going to get blown out in a situation like that. So kind of long tails to either one of those, where the Niners just win straight up, or the number doesn't even matter and they get blown out because Dallas's offense is clicking. And I think what you saw last week in that comeback was not something, a bit more of a mirage for the Niners. Like, that's not something they're set up to do very well. It was more of an assist from the Rams. So yeah, I lean towards just taking the Niners straight up here.
I like that. And San Francisco straight up on the road they're 6-3. They won the last 4 out of 5, so they're coming in pretty hot. They also own a top 5 defense in success rate versus the pass and the rush. So that'll be a good one.
Yeah.
Next game here, Pittsburgh. We'll just move right along here. Pittsburgh, KC. We got 2 more here. This is the night game on Sunday night. Pittsburgh 2-5 straight up, 2-5 ATS. Again, these are against playoff teams. Negative 579 yards per game. KC 6-3 straight up, 5-4 ATS, and a plus 277. Is it? What's the line right now, Andy? Is this too many points for to give to Pittsburgh?
It's a bunch. It was 12.5-ish. We talked about this being the other half of a teaser leg if you really have to close one out this weekend.
Yeah. And
even Big Ben, I almost worry Big Ben's like full on psycho talk right now. He's like, we should be 20-point underdogs. We have no chance to win this game. We're just going to go out there and do what we do. So, God, I kind of worry about him just throwing all these YOLO balls, but that can cut both ways. This might be I guess really the only thing I have to say about this game is I'm mad that they put it on Sunday night. Like, we have better playoff games.
I know.
This should have been like the noon game. But congrats to the Steelers fans who got their team in. That's wild how they ended up in late. And I mean, your path to success is running Najee Harris a lot, playing keep away. Don't let the offense out on the field. Hope Tyreek Hill's heel, it's hard to say, is bad still. and just pray the turnovers bounce your way. Like I'm not sure how they keep this close. This is and I did mention this too. Some people had said looking to maybe bet the Steelers. I said, what are the odds that the Chiefs score first? It's go look. There's odds on that. You can go look at that. The odds are higher than 50-50 for sure. The odds that the Chiefs score a couple times, Drew brought that up in a row, are pretty high. Like there's a decent enough chance if you live bet, you're going to get more than 12.5. Like, wouldn't you rather live bet them getting inside the number at 24.5? So it feels like there'll be some garbage time scoring, but it might not be getting them down to like 10 or 8 points. It might be garbage time to get them within like 3 scores.
Right. Because the Steelers have
maybe a live bet here.
Yeah, they have started slow, the Steelers. And generally, as the game goes on in the second half, they've been picking it up this season.
And yeah, if it does turn to garbage time, this is probably Big Ben's last hurrah. He's not going to go out there and hand the ball off for fun.
Right.
He's going to tell Tomlin, like, hey, we're down by 25. Let me throw some bombs. Like, that's the kind of team I want to back to get plus 24.5 in game.
Yeah.
Give me that.
And is this the primetime game because maybe this is a Roethlisberger retirement party? Yeah,
I guess. I mean, I think it's more of getting the Chiefs on primetime, but boy, it's a stinker. It's a stinker of a playoff game as far as they come.
Definitely is. Pittsburgh in the last 3 games, 0.232 points per play. That's 30th in the league. KC, 3rd overall in turnover margin this season, and Pittsburgh's offense is converts on 3rd down 33% of the time in their last 3 games. So we'll move on here to Arizona. Monday night game. We got a Monday nighter. So Arizona and LA Rams. Arizona's 5-2 straight up, 5-2 ATS, plus 488 yards per game against playoff teams. The Rams are 2-5 straight up, 2-5 ATS, and negative 328 yards per game.
It's fun too. These all these NFC West teams have like a big record, like 7, 8 games against playoff because they all played each other so much. But the NFC West, we joked about this preseason about just taking the dog every time, and then I don't think a dog hasn't covered yet without just winning the game straight up. And I think they've won about half the matchups. I don't know if Arizona's super live to win, but I have this game a little closer than 4. I really, really think the narrative swung too far and the market's too low on Arizona. They ended their season poorly. Hopkins is out. J.J. Watt is missing. Some of those guys might make reappearances come playoff times, but it's been a little too hard on the Cardinals. And it stinks because all season long, like the first half of the season, I said, this is the team I'm super ready to fade in the playoffs. It is, again, a first-time playoff coach, first-time playoff quarterback, a younger quarterback, younger coach that maybe I don't think so highly of against a coach I think a little more highly of. But I mean, between that and then the way Stafford's played to end the year, like just he's been a rough hang for like the last few weeks. So I do have this number a lot closer to 3, and I'll probably be taking some Cardinals, which we'll see how that ends the week.
Yeah.
Hopefully it went well from there because that's not a super confident play. It just feels like more of a numbers play I have to make based on the way these teams match up.
Arizona is 8-1 ATS on the road this season too. So we'll see what happens this week, but they're probably the right side in my opinion. I would lean towards the Cardinals as well, but the Rams are a disciplined team. They only commit 4.5 penalties per game. That's tied for 3rd. So that's pretty important in the playoffs as well. So do you have any other comments about any of these games here, Andy?
No, I think I'm I think I'm pretty set on my card for the weekend, which feels like
Yeah.
I'm betting too much. I don't usually take this many, probably smaller positions just because it's the playoffs and these are hard games to beat. Like
Yeah.
said this to someone the other day. There was a Niners game like 2 years ago, maybe three even against the Vikings, where it's just like, oh my god, I gotta bet that. That's wrong. Like and maybe you go 2-3 years between playoff games where you have that strong of a at least the way I look at it. Like there's just not playoff games where it's like oh, that number is clearly off. It's not like the beginning of the season where you can take some strong stances and say the market's just wrong on this team. Like they're gonna have to correct by the end of the year. So it's tough sledding, like you said. Props. Go find some props, and I think you can make some good money there. I'll have to see. I don't play a lot of DFS, but I am addicted to those showdown matchups. Even if I'm just doing a little, the single game ones like on Thursday night. So I'm a little worried that they're going to have 6 different ones this weekend. I'm pretty sure that's a thing. So I'll probably piss a bunch of money away on DFS and.
Well, at least you'll be entertained, Andy, right?
Yeah. Well, once in a while we make a little cash on there.
Yeah.
It's so hard.
It's about entertainment, but mostly it's about winning the money. That's primary.
It'd be nice.
Well, thanks again, Andy. I really appreciate you coming on here, man. Can you give the listeners, viewers, where to find you? What's maybe around the corner for you? What to expect going forward?
Yeah, I hang out on Twitter quite a bit. Should put the phone down once in a while, but I can't help it. And yeah, at Andy MSFW on Twitter. I'm posting over at BetSpurt sometimes. I'm on that app as well. But around the corner, there's a new Twitter account at BetSpurts Golf. Not a lot happening over there yet, but some big stuff in the works behind the scenes. Got a lot of people working on some things behind the scenes on that. I think that's going to be fun as we transition into some more golf content. I mean, it's just basically there'll be more surprises, but there will be a lot more golf content coming out of that feed. And I think it's a beauty, especially for people who are a big fan of the NFL or football in general. And if you find yourself trying to find another sport to bet, golf is such a nice fit because their playoffs are right before the regular season starts. And these first few tournaments during the playoffs aren't they're just garbage. Like they're fun to just kind of dink around on, but the real season kind of fires up after the Super Bowl. So they fit perfectly together, cover the whole calendar for you. So I'd encourage some people to go check that out.
It's typically a 4, and I don't get into golf much, but I would like to dabble in it because it's a 4-day tournament usually, correct?
Yeah.
So that gives you 4 days of sports to watch and get involved in. Andy, you're an occasional VSiN host too, right?
Yeah, we did do some hosting last year when Gil took the week off, and once I've popped on there once. I did some golf. I talked some golf last year with Brady Cannon over there. But maybe I'll end up doing that again this season once we get down to talking some golf. But yeah, definitely a lot more golf talk for me this year, hopefully, because I thoroughly need something to do in the off season.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thanks again, man. We'll let you go, and we'll keep in touch here. Appreciate it.
That sounds good. Thanks a lot for the time, man. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Thank